In this video, we're going to be teaching you the 4 types of competitive advantages that businesses can utilize to create pricing power and sustain what's called a moat. What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to be talking about moats. And so these aren't moats with actual crocodiles in it in the medieval times. These are competitive advantages for businesses. So Warren Buffett popularized the term moat because he viewed business as that castle or that kingdom, and then a moat is the characteristic or the competitive advantage that fends off competitors. So there's 4 main types of moats that I like to think about, and in this video we'll share those 4 types of moats and examples from each type. So the first type of moat is brand. And brand is actually a type of moat that was extremely popular back in the day, but has become a little bit less powerful. So let me explain real quick. So you used to go into the grocery store and you would know the brands and they would actually be able to charge a little bit more. And you would know those brands because they would have the best shelf space and they would advertise the most. And so these big consumer packaged goods companies like Procter & Gamble would actually have a little bit of this effect where they would advertise the most, they would buy the best shelf space, and then because you were too lazy to search around, you would just pick those items. However, the internet has changed things a little bit. And so now there's so many different types of brands that it becomes hard to really differentiate yourself on that basis. And so there's kind of 2 subsectors of brands. There's brands that fulfill a search category, and that's kind of like what I was talking about, where if you're walking through the grocery store and you see Tide Pods and you recognize them as these Tide ones and oh, those are better than the generic ones, so you just pick those because you don't have to search as much. So that type of brand is actually becoming a little less important because the internet has really enabled you to search so many different types of brands. The second subcategory of brand is kind of this ability to show how wealthy you are or how connected you are. And an example for this is a Ferrari. So Ferraris can go for millions of dollars, and the reason that people buy Ferraris is not because the performance is so much better. They buy them because of what is associated with buying a Ferrari. So when you drive down the street in a Ferrari, people look at you and say, "Oh my gosh, what does that person do? Oh my gosh, that person is so cool." So that is the reason that Ferrari has the ability to price their products much higher. And so this is the crucial factor of a competitive advantage. It's all about pricing power. So if you can raise prices consistently, then you probably have one of these moats. Think about back to our first example of a consumer packaged goods company. If you have Tide Pods and you're Procter & Gamble and you keep raising the prices, all of a sudden the grocery store that is selling these Tide Pods will be able to undercut you because that brand is not as important because the internet has enabled you to look at all sorts of these brands. However, with this luxury type of brand, like even an iPhone, that goes exactly in that same category. So an iPhone is similar to this luxury type, more of the Ferrari end versus the search category end of a brand. And so that's why Ferrari has such incredible pricing power, is because the emotional attachment that this product has and how other people will view you. So it's kind of this other-centric, really strong category. So that's the first category of brands, and it's split up into those 2. right? So we have brand, and then we have a subsection search category, and then luxury category, or how other people view that product. So the second type of competitive advantage, or moat, is patents or regulatory approvals. So here's two examples. The first is pharmaceuticals. If you are a biotech company and you get a drug approved, there's usually a 12 to 14 year period where you are the exclusive manufacturer of that drug. And so if you think about it, if you're the only one on earth to provide a drug, then you can basically charge whatever you want for it, even if it may be unethical. So that is extreme pricing power. Another example is waste management. So the company that comes and picks up your trash. The thing about that is cities only give a certain number of landfills to companies that bid on them. And once you get that landfill, you're basically set because that contract is so hard to be able to get it pried from you. So once you have that contract, you can continually increase the price on the city that you're servicing. So once you get that landfill, you can continually raise the prices. So that's the second category, regulatory or patent approval. The hard thing about this is once you actually get the approval or the patent, once it expires, then your whole moat or competitive advantage is completely gone. So it actually isn't one of the stronger competitive advantages because once it is over, it's over. But during that time that it actually is in effect, you have a ton of pricing power. The other little aspect or nuance about that is a lot of companies can circumvent patents. They can add a little feature and say, oh, it's not exactly the same product, and so you're constantly dealing with this problem, and you probably have a lot of litigation because this patent is your baby. Okay, those are the first two categories. We have brands and then regulatory approvals. The third category is switching costs. So pretend that you are an HR representative at your company and you have a payroll processing software. So some popular ones are Paycom, Paychex. There's all sorts of companies that do this, but it's basically the software that you plug your employees' contracts and the hours that they worked and their salaries. You plug it all into this and then it will actually send out the pay. So imagine that you've got this system all up, you have thousands of employees, everything's set, you get everybody all set up and you're getting your employees paid on time and everyone's happy. Then all of a sudden you get approached by a new payroll processing company and they say, hey, we'll actually give you a 20% discount if you switch to our platform. Now, think about it from your perspective, the HR representative. You have all of this risk, right? If you switch over to this new payroll processing software and all of a sudden it has a hiccup and your thousands of employees don't get paid, that's coming down on your shoulders and your employees will not be happy. And you're going to be saving 20%. Let's say you're saving $10,000. And one thing, it's not your money, it's the company's money. And secondly, $10,000 in the grand scheme of things is not that much money for a big corporation. So would you rather save $10,000 and have the risk that your employees will be really angry with you? Or would you just like to stay with the status quo? And this is why companies that are payroll processing or other companies in this sort of niche can have pricing power because they know that their customers will probably not churn or leave their software. So this is an example of a switching cost as a competitive advantage. So the fourth type of competitive advantage is network effects. And this is arguably one of the more powerful competitive advantages, and this is how it works. So the definition of a network effect is that each node that is added to the network actually accrues more value to the network. So think about it like this. Amazon had kind of this chicken and an egg problem when it first started its e-commerce operations. So you have all these customers and all these suppliers, and Amazon actually sells some of the products itself. That's called first-party suppliers, and then it actually lets other suppliers use its platform, and that's called third-party. So it has this chicken and egg problem, right? It wants customers to use its platform, but it also doesn't have very many suppliers yet. But each new customer that is added to that network, each new customer that uses Amazon, provides a bigger potential reach for each supplier. That means that more suppliers are incentivized to use Amazon, which means that more customers will use Amazon since it has more options. So it's kind of this network effect that gets kicked off, and once it gets critical mass, it actually is very powerful. And this is how Amazon works. This is also how eBay works, or Uber. Think about Uber. The more riders that sign up to use Uber, that incentivizes more drivers to drive for it because they can make money doing this thing. And then more drivers on the road mean more riders because they'll have to wait less amount of time to actually get a ride. So this is how the network effect works. So those are the 4 types of competitive advantages that businesses can really utilize to get pricing power. And so pricing power is the key because these are sustainable competitive advantages. They don't go away really quickly. If a moat doesn't lead to pricing power, then it's probably not a moat. So those are the 4 main types, right? We have brand, regulatory approval, switching costs, and then finally network effects. Network effects and switching costs are particularly powerful, and you can see that brand has degraded slightly because of the rise of the internet, and then regulatory approval is really dependent on regulatory bodies, obviously, and then once the patents or approvals expire, then you're going to face a lot of competition and you won't be able to raise prices. So those are some things to think about, and those 4 types of moats are really important to understand as an investor. Hope you learned something. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and if you're interested in more information, you can click our link in the description box below. And in order to get more content, just click the videos next to my face. You're awesome. We love you. Have a good one.